It's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. And welcome to the big show. Today we're going to talk about what gear do you plan on buying in 2021. Let's see who's in that chat room. Hello, everybody. We've got Marion Laird, Cass McKenty, Peter Rahill, Ewart Williams, Lucian Lewis, Andre Stepanian, Dan Weber, El Rasso, Emil, Darren Fletcher, Bob Gunnerfelt, Brad Gray, Chris Anderson, Nancy Colell, Buffalo Bob, Dean Turner, Jesse J. Peck, Crash Gates, John Pearson, hello, Jim Stamper, Jim's due for a new PC, L. Harrison, Akira Canyon. All right, the gang is all here. Anybody notice anything different about the set today? Seems like an old friend of ours is back on set. Hello, John Hope. Shorts and t-shirt weather back to SoCal, yay. Hello, Giovanni. I hear the ice cream truck tooling around the neighborhood. The Birds of Paradise. Peter Rahill wins something. I'm not sure what. Oh, man. Okay, wow, we're jumping right into the topic. All right, so we've got 2021 upgrading to the latest Cubase Pro after his last mix is done. That's from Cass. That was the sound of my knuckle cracking too close to the microphone. Hello, Simon. You know what I need, don't you? Iced coffee. Nancy Colell's going to get a new bass guitar. Nice. Chris Anderson's going to get Contact Complete. That sounds expensive. A haircut like 10 days ago. Yeah. You know, interestingly enough, we just did a survey. And, oh man, what did I do with that document now? Probably can't find it. Anyway, we did a survey on Twitter yesterday or the day before. And I think it was 80. I printed it out. It's upstairs in the loft. You know what? I'm going to run up and grab it. I'll be right back. Okay, just got in my daily exercise. Oh no, I was wrong. It's not 84%. Oh no, I feel iced coffee burp coming. Excuse me. So we had 28 votes, kind of a small sample size, but a sample nonetheless. And 28 votes, 67.9%, I'm going to round up and call that 68%, said Logic, 14.3% said Pro Tools, 17.9% said Ableton, 0% said Studio One. I'm shocked. Frankly, I would have thought it would be a tie between Logic and Pro Tools. Anyway, thought that was interesting. Hello, Reiny. Chris lives 3 miles from the Taylor factory. Yeah, 17.9% said Ableton. Nuendo, sweet. What was the vote about? It was a poll that we did on Twitter. What kind of DAW do you use when creating music? 67.9% said Logic, 14.3% Pro Tools, 17.9% said Ableton. Studio One got 0%. Yeah, I've never been to the Taylor factory. I've tried to get an old friend of mine is like their I can't remember what he is. The guy who like artist relations at Taylor. Do you think I could get them to donate a Taylor guitar to give away at the Road Rally? No, I've tried like 3 or 4 times. Andre says add his vote to Logic. Rosanna, yay Logic. Oh, the factory is closed for COVID? Wow. So what are they doing? Are they making them elsewhere and shipping them in, or are they just not making any new guitars? Reaper wasn't on the list. Um, Real developers use Reaper. uh, oh no, cousin of Marion's bought a custom Taylor and then wrecked his hand so he can't play it so much. Wow. Sorry to hear that. Oh, the factory's open. Okay. Taylor is made in China? But the tour is closed. Got it. Uwe's in the house. Hello, how are you? I just saw a picture of you somewhere, I think in our member deals section or something on the website. So now I know what you look like, Uwe. How many of you guys actually use Twitter? I'm curious. Boy, if there was ever a week to ask that question, huh? So yeah, everybody who uses Twitter on a, like at least once a week basis, type a +1 in. I'm curious. JP dumped Twitter several months ago. All right, so not that many people. A lot of people say they don't like it. I tend to agree. I mean, it's just in the last few months just went overboard. Hello, Scott Hansen. Um, how many of you use Facebook regularly? Give me a +1 for Facebook users. Yeah, I'm not on Facebook. I actually have a fake name on Facebook that I only use to communicate with immediate family members, and even then, extremely rare that I go on. Um, I suggested to stay off social media for the New Year's Eve show. Yeah, boy, wasn't that prescient. Jim Stamper uses his wife's account. Heidi Owen, -1 as of yesterday. 2 negative, says Ken Parks. Carrie sometimes visits the taxi Facebook page. How many of you are on Instagram? Give me a +1 on that. I'm afraid if we did a poll on like Twitter about how many people use other forms of social media, they'd probably cancel us. Facebook's new policies are too invasive. I'm not so sure how important it is for marketing. A decent number of people are using Instagram, but never use Twitter, but I use Instagram. I still have an AOL email address. I've had it since almost a year before I started Taxi, so I won't let go of it. Yeah, I can't believe the stuff that's going on. Again, not being political, not taking a side for or against anything by saying this, but I'm extremely dismayed and disheartened by the fact that social media companies, what they're doing, just crazy. I mean, I feel like we're living in another country in another time. I miss the guy who told you you have mail. I just saw something about that guy. I think he's now an Uber driver, and I'm not being facetious, Scott. I think I really saw something the other day about the guy. He was actually the husband of one of the earlier AOL staff members, and he got paid something like $1,700 or some nominal fee to do "You've Got Mail." John Pearson agrees with me. I mean, yeah, what they're doing. I mean, what happened instantly, like overnight? What happened to free speech in America? I don't get it. Jesse J. Peck, big tech, too much power. Yep. AOL is much less intrusive than Gmail. Boy, that's for sure. I mean, isn't it scary how you can, email a friend. Like if I send an email to Shirelli saying, what do you think about this piece of gear? I hit send on that email and that piece of gear starts showing up in the ads literally in seconds. It's mind blowing. Parler was cool. Hope it comes back. Yeah, what is up with that? I cannot believe they actually killed Parler, took away Parler's servers. I don't want to talk politics here. It's too much of a hot button issue. But yeah, it's just amazing. Amazing. DuckDuckGo.com is supposedly a non-tracking search engine. I've heard that. I went there the other day. It felt a little bit wimpy. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't as robust as Google. Epstein killed Parler. Social media. Not let me say that more clearly, Roseanne. I think a lot of people think that you can, just open an Instagram or Facebook or Twitter account or whatever, and that magically millions of people are going to find you. I should clarify by saying that in order to use it, you have to really learn a lot about it, learn all the tricks of the trade, watch all the videos on YouTube about it, and then work at it feverishly. You have to be really good at what you post, when you post, all that stuff. I mean, it's like any other marketing. It's not like you can just turn it on and go, "Hi, everybody. How's your day going?" That doesn't work. You'll still be doing the same thing a year later with very few followers. Maybe MySpace will make a comeback. Also, Andre had a good suggestion before. I'd like to take a quick vote. How many of you have your own personal website for music-related stuff? +1 if you've got a music-related website. Uwe, we're still lost as to what's going on over here as well. My wife and I used to be avid news watchers, and lately we just don't even bother turning it on. We're watching a lot more Netflix and Amazon Prime these days and just avoiding the news because it's just ridiculous. Simon agrees it's an 18-hour-a-day job marketing online. It really is. It's like anything, you can't be successful at anything other than being that 1 in a million lucky person. But for the most part, you've got to work at this stuff. You have to understand how to use it. You can't. It's like, yeah, I could go buy a Formula One car, but I'm not going to be a Formula One driver anytime soon. Scott Hans has got a website, but no one ever goes there. Well, those take marketing as well. It's all about keywords and how you title your pages, all that stuff. Are you tagging your photos? Just all that stuff. Yeah, a lot of plus ones in there for Bandzoogle. I've got to say, yes, they've been a sponsor at the Taxi Road Rally for many, many years. I know the people there. I really like them a lot. I think the reason it's so incredibly popular with taxi members is that it works, that you can have no tech skills whatsoever and set up a really good-looking Bandzoogle webpage. Speaking of which, the vice president of Bandzoogle is a longtime friend of mine. Should I have him on a Taxi TV and so he can field your questions about best practices for setting up a website, whether you use Bandzoogle or not? Yeah, Bandzoogle does have a lot of tutorials. Yep, Dave Cool. And that's his real name, and he is cool. He's like so understated. Debbie Ward's got her taxi forward certificates on display on your site. Nice. All right, I'm making a note. I will call Dave Cool tomorrow and get him on the show. I love that guy. Schedule Dave Cool for Taxi TV. Yeah, he and I spoke a few weeks ago. He said, sure, I'd love to come on the show. I just haven't scheduled him. Hey, Ian, how are you? Yeah, he should name his son. How cool. Or he could name him like Yuri and call him Ur for short. You're cool. Andre wants to know who's going to NAM, LOL. Oh, you know what? Who was it? Somebody who's fairly new to the chat, and I can't remember his name at the moment. I'm drawing complete blank. Super Blonde, who I've seen popping up in the chats lately. Super Blonde said, let everybody know that NAM is doing a virtual NAM thing. And I went to the NAM website before, and I couldn't find... It looks like you have to be a NAM member. I don't know. Most of you who go that are musicians, just regular people, you have to get a ticket from somebody, either a dealer that you know or a manufacturer. So... Scott Hansen, I wanted to fight in NAM. Nobody wanted to fight in that NAM. Anyway, so I went on the NAM website, and I couldn't, in 5 minutes, I couldn't figure out how to get myself a ticket. For many, many years, Taxi was actually a NAM member. We qualified. There were a couple times we had a booth at the NAM show, probably in the mid-'90s or early '90s, I think. And for a long time, I kept our membership active, and I would go to the NAM show every now and then. But it's just, overwhelming. And frankly, you can learn so much about new gear by going online and watching tutorials and video demos of gear that I find going to the NAMM show is actually kind of counterproductive if you actually want to know something about gear. Is there such a thing as stages of cue creation? For me, one, it's easy. Two, this is brilliant. Three, wow, the music industry really sucks. Four, keep going. Five, I think we've got it done, and submit. I'd say that sounds about typical. Ken Parks going into a recording session, got to run. Good luck on the session. If there's ever a reason for missing a Taxi TV, going into a session would be one of the best ones I could think of. Edmund Red's got a question. Yesterday, Pierre Venio was asking if Taxi was a PMA member. I'm also curious to know. No, we're not. I have nothing against the PMA. I mean, there was a lot of brouhaha 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. They were being super strict about not letting non-exclusive libraries become members. And you had to sign a document or something saying that you were exclusive or you couldn't be a member. Some people referred to it as, like the good old boys club, that it was a bunch of the older, more well-established libraries that were all exclusive, and they were very upset by the non-exclusive side of the industry. I'm not going to get into the debate over exclusive versus non, but people felt that it was exclusionary. So I just kept my nose out of the fray. I've been to a couple of their events, and they were good, though. Yep, PMA, Production Music Association. I know that the PMA they do a thing that's kind of like a little road rally thing. And I had somebody, about a year ago, somebody from the industry was in my office, somebody who was actually who is a PMA member from one of the more established libraries. And he made some offhanded remark that I didn't think was cool, which was, something to the effect of, yeah, we all get swamped by all these people handing us their music on thumb drives and CDs, and kind of rolled his eyes. And I thought, well, geez, that's part of the beauty of the road rally is the fact that people can hand their music to people in the industry. And you would think if the folks that go to the PMA are earnest about wanting to hear new music, that maybe they would say, sure, I'll take your CD. But I don't know. That was one person's opinion, so I don't want to judge the organization of the people in it by one person's feedback on it. Somebody from the PMA was actually at the road rally, the last physical road rally, the 2019 rally. And they came up to me after the fact, literally like Sunday night at 6:30, right after it ended, out in the bar area, the lobby area. And she said, wow, this event is really impressive. We would love to have you come to the PMA and talk about Taxi. And I said, wow, sure, I'd love to. Because let's face it, there are still companies out there that just have this incredible misconception that they've held on to for years. Oh, you charge musicians money, therefore you must be some sort of scam or something. I'm not going to give up a name, John. Anyway, I thought that it was nice that person asked me if I'd be interested in coming, and then didn't return my phone call. So there you go. Yeah, it happens. People get caught up in the moment, John, and all excited, like, wow, the road rally was awesome. You should come and speak at our event. And then they get caught up in the drudgery of the day-to-day stuff. I'm probably guilty of that myself, frankly. I wish that I could clone myself so that I'm the rainmaker at Taxi, for maybe lack of a better description. And there's so many people that I would like to establish relationships with, and do more of that stuff. And it's tough, it's running the day-to-day does get in the way of the schmoozatorium factor. Um, let's see, I wanted to ask you something else about gear. Oh, I think I might have asked this a month or two ago, but I am curious now that I'm playing around more with Logic. Excuse me, and as I explained on the show the other day, I'm not really trying. I did create one like disco, an intentionally dated sounding kind of classic disco track, which back in the day, when I was still actively working in the studio, if I worked on a disco record, I wouldn't put my name on it. I would use, I had an assistant engineer, and I would use his name all the time. Because I just did, it was like during that disco sucks era, and I didn't want to ruin my career. And frankly, I didn't really enjoy working on a lot. I worked on some disco that I thought was really good. You know what I did enjoy about working on disco? Doing string dates with like 20 or 30 live string players. That was always fun. I really, really enjoyed watching the process of bringing charts in, finding the rubs on the charts, running things down, listening for the rub, everybody, whipping out their pencil and erasing and drawing in fixes on the notes, and then listening to it the next time through. It was pretty cool. But what have I been doing with Logic is mostly listening to all the different sounds and taking some notes and spending a lot of time with the plugins. Specifically, spent a lot of time over this past weekend listening to all the compressors, which were, for the most part, there was only one that I was underwhelmed by. The rest were all very impressive. I also downloaded some stuff, bought some stuff from Waves, I mentioned the other day. Really like the LA3. I love that. I loved it in the physical form, and I've got to say the Waves plug-in version of it is pretty darn true to form. Let's see what else. I listened to some of the reverb stuff. Check out Fat Effects as well. Okay. I had such an awesome profession. Still do, actually. I do miss the studio. Maybe I wouldn't after a month or two in the studio. I don't know. I love getting sounds. I love the craft, the science, the art, the physics, all that stuff about making things sound great in the studio. But I'm really curious, with like all these plugins that are, like the CLA, the Chris Lord Alge stuff, and the Tony Maserati stuff, all the endorsed plugins with their presets. Are those really, truly the presets that they would use? And I'm guessing they probably are. But then I wonder, does that hurt you moving forward if you're just, it's like instant sounds, which I guess is good. Makes your productivity better, right? You can move a lot quicker. You don't have to sit there and learn a lot to get a great vocal sound. You can just use the Chris Lord Alge, press a button and the vocal sounds great stuff. But wouldn't you want to understand the why it works? Why certain compression sounds good on a certain type of vocal and a certain kind of song at a certain tempo and a certain octave, and be able to hear a problem and have your brain instantly know what you could do engineering-wise to solve the problem versus just pressing a button. Oh, it sounds magically good. There's something to be said for magically good in an instant, I guess. presets are good starting points. They are. I've used presets on stuff from time to time, or checked out presets. Can't say that I've used it. In the musical or studio sense. But yeah, the presets do sound pretty good, gotta say. I've just started fooling around this past weekend with Drummer in Logic, and I gotta say, even though I'm sure I only use like 3%, scratching the surface, very impressive. Good night, Giovanni. Thanks for showing up. Sweet dreams. Yeah, the why matters. I'm a huge advocate of understanding the why in so many aspects of things. Have you tried the Neve 225? I've got to say, some of the stuff that I checked out over the weekend, Neve knockoffs. I think I'm going to get the SSL G compressor, the mix bus compressor. I've heard great things about that. I don't know if Logic is strictly Apple. I'm guessing it probably is. But yeah, I was really impressed. I remember listening to some plugins probably 4 or 5 years ago. I downloaded some, trials and listened to certain things in GarageBand. Just put some drum tracks, some stuff on drum tracks just to listen to them. And they sounded pretty good back then. To my ear, having used a lot of that stuff back in the day, they didn't sound that much like the real deal, but I would say from what I've seen so far in Logic, that they actually do sound like the real deal now. The Waves LA3 was, virtually the same. And I love that compressor. If you've never used one or owned one or tried one, I strongly recommend it. See you, Glenn. Have a good lesson. Anyway, more suggestions on software. I did get the Abbey Road plates, as I mentioned the other day, from Waves. I wasn't that impressed, but then again, like I mentioned on the show, was it Monday that I mentioned that? That I bought the plates that Phil Ramone had gotten from Phil Spector. So the last, real studio that I worked in all the time was at a place called HSR in New York, and I had a full-blown SSL in that room, tons of great outboard, tons of great microphones, and got the 2 plates that were the Phil Spector plates that went from Phil Spector to Phil Ramone to moi. Not me personally, to the studio, but I was the one that facilitated the purchase and got to use them, and they just sounded incredible. They were really well tuned. Did you know that you can actually kind of tune Swedish steel plates? They had been tweaked where the suspension had been redone, the springs were adjusted, the transducers and the pickups had been refurbished with new coils, I believe, and they actually take the plates out and polish them to get any oxidization off the plates, and it does make them sound crisper, not in like a sibilant way, but hard to explain. But instantly you put a snare drum with a 65 millisecond or 100 millisecond pre-delay, whatever the song kind of dictated as far as the tempo, put a pre-delay on, send it to those plates, and bring it back into, through a return in the console, and it was just like mind-blowingly perfect. Sounded so good. Wow, you guys are very busy in here today. It's funny, my vision's a little blurry. Sometimes about an hour before the show, I'll take like a Sudafed or something, because I've been developing allergies pretty much during lockdown. Maybe it's something in the house. I don't know. I've never had a problem with allergies in my life, but for the last year, allergies have been problematic. Not like horrible, but I get a lot of post-nasal drip and a lot of froggy stuff in my throat. So sometimes before I do a show, I'll take an antihistamine or Benadryl or whatever, and they definitely make my vision a little blurry. I just saw something about waves plates in it. Where'd it go? Waves plates is CPU hound. Yeah, I would imagine any plate is. Plug-in alliances, consoles, SSL, Intel, etc. Okay. I'm going to have to go back to this chat and write all this stuff down. What do you guys know about a company called Splice? It's popped up on my radar a few times, and from what I understand, I haven't even been to the website yet. It's like a marketplace for gear. The Waves SSL bundles, $124 at Sweetwater. I love my SSL. Frankly, with all that great outboard in the room that I had, I had LA2s, I had Pultex, just like anything you could think of in there. And I loved the way the SSL sounded, and frankly didn't have to use that, kind of esoteric, incredible. And these were all originals, not knockoffs. These were real Pultex that had been rebuilt, and real LA2s that were like brand new but built to the old spec. Stuff sounded great, but the SSL sounded so good. I just used like the preamps in the console sounded great. The EQ sounded great. All the dynamics sounded great. I rarely used gates, but I got to say the gates that were in the SSL channel strips were the easiest to use, best sounding gates I think I ever used. So Splice does rent to own. That's interesting. Splice is pretty cool. Subscribed for a while and was satisfied. Yeah, I've heard all pretty good stuff about it. I'm just not that familiar with it. I really feel bad for the people that watch the archives and see me staring. They don't realize I'm trying to speed read through the chat. I might have to go back and take notes from the chat. I don't know that I'm spoiled. Yeah, you could say I'm spoiled because I've worked in all these awesome studios with awesome gear. But you guys are in a world that I'm just starting to, dip my toe in the water in now. And I'm just so blown away. The fact I was joking with one of my friends the other night who's also an engineer. And I told him that I was going to grab some stuff from Waves. And I told him that I bought like 6 of something. I said, yeah, I like the LA3A so much I bought 6 of them. And he actually believed me that I was that dumb. Interesting. Some library owners are requesting that their composers don't use any loops or exposed loops from Splice. Yeah, well, isn't that kind of true across the board that they don't want you to send any stems. It is just the loop without any other stuff in there, right? Because then if it's just the loop, you're taking something that you got from point A or purveyor A, and then you're making money with it. If you add something to it, then it's your creation using that thing, not just that thing standing alone. Was that the issue? And is it just Splice? Because aren't there other companies that do the rent-to-own scheme? Scheme is a bad word for it, but I think it's because some of the folks uploading songs, loops for sale, were ripping them from other sound libraries. Wow, interesting. If it sounds like a loop, that doesn't sound like music, right? Well, I'm not all that familiar, not nearly as familiar as many of you, but I would imagine that some of the percussion loops in particular on their own would work in the context of like a TV commercial or something. Fruity Loops, there's a name that I heard a lot like 3 years ago. Don't hear that much these days. U-Haul Beats will move you. So will X-Lax. Let's see. Somebody, Dan Weber says, Paul Gavin has a good question. Now I'm trying to find it. I don't see it. There we go. Question: are you concerned about the number of Americans who have stopped using cable? What effect do you think the gradual migration to streaming networks will have on the industry? Boy, I am concerned, although, you know, cable, I think it's going to take a while. And I think at some point, the problem is always there's always some musician or thousands or tens of thousands or hundred thousands that are willing to work for next to no money because they just want to get their foot in the door. So if the people who are used to making X level of income from the cable industry and getting paid cable rates or broadcast network rates, and everything goes to streaming, and the streaming rates suck. Well, if all the musicians who are supplying that music said, "Hold on, Baba Louie," if everybody banded together, but people have proposed, there should be a union for composers. The problem is there's always somebody who will work cheaper, and it's usually people who are just trying to break in. They don't really understand the industry well. They don't understand the long-term effect of them going, I'll do it for free, I'll do it for cheap, and they screw it up for everybody else. So I don't know what to tell you. At the moment, I don't think it's a huge problem, but it could be. Music strike. I don't know, how do you get everybody? Because you really need everybody. You need such tremendous buy-in on something like that. And then they'll just replace you with an AI bot that will create music. That's how I hired my wife to work in my restaurant. Wow, she has to spend 24 hours a day with you, Scott? That woman deserves something like an Oscar or something for for putting up with your goofy ass. It's funny. My wife never worked with me at Taxi. And then about 4 years ago or so, we needed an extra set of hands to do, or an extra mouth to do outbound phone calls for Road Rally, calling all the members to say, hey, it's surprising how many people who are members of Taxi still don't know about the Road Rally. They're just utterly clueless. Like, do you ever open our emails? Do you ever go to the website? How could you not know that you get 2 free tickets to an incredible event? Oh, I didn't know. Oh, it's in California? Well, I live in Nevada. That's too far away. Really? Meanwhile, we've got people that fly in from all over the world, but somebody in a neighboring state doesn't come. I never understood that. But I think that my wife started 4, maybe 5 years ago doing the outbound phone calls. And then we went through a rough patch with some staff members leaving several years ago. And when people leave, even when they leave on good terms and they give you 2 weeks notice and they're supposed to train the person they replace, well, finding somebody to fill a position in 2 weeks and get them trained, next to impossible. And at Taxi, it takes a really, really long time to learn the member services drill because there are just so many questions. People will call and ask, questions like, what's the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive? And you've got to be knowledgeable about that stuff. And you have to be knowledgeable about the way Taxi works. It takes easily 6 months or more to get up to speed with member services. So my wife became like the de facto, I'm going to learn everything I can about member services stuff so that when people leave, whether they're leaving in a good way or a bad way, we've got one consistent person that knows most, if not all, of the member services stuff that can help train the incoming person if the outgoing person is in a hurry. And inevitably, when people give you 2 weeks notice, which they should, I think I would, inevitably they'll use up some sick days. So, you've only got them for 2 weeks notice means 10 work days. And then they take 3 or 4 sick days and use those up. And then, I had a little fender bender. Before you know it, they only work 3 of their last 10 days. So that creates quite a problem. So I'm very, very, very happy to have my wife on board. So like right now, she's working upstairs on member services stuff. I can hear her up there on the phone. It's good that we work in separate parts of the house. And she goes into the office most days for like 2-3 hours. Probably just to get away from me. She's smart. Man, you guys are really active in the chat today. I want to... Yay, Uwe started saving up for this year's rally. I am so curious. I have no indication, by the way. We have every intention. We've already signed the contract with the hotel. We actually signed it easily a year ago. And we have every intention of going back to the hotel this year. And the hotel recently reached out to me and said, hey, whatever we have to do to make you happy. Because one of the things we have to do, we would do it anyway, but we have to do it for financial reasons with the hotel, are the 2 industry meet and greet lunches or eat and greet luncheons. There's 300 people in the room for 2 days in a row at those luncheons. 11 people per table times 30 tables, because there's an industry person at every table, and then every 15 minutes we bang a cowbell or blow a whistle or something, and all the industry people get up and move from one table to the next, so that during the luncheon, which by the way we make no money on, it's just a pass-through. The hotel charges like 30 or 35 bucks for a lunch, and it's a multi-course lunch. It's actually a good value, and we've heard really good reports on the food. I personally have yet to make it up there to eat a meal, so I can't tell you personally if the food is good, but I've heard that it's worth the money, and a lot of members meet other members there. A lot of members meet industry people. And they learn stuff, although the room is very, very loud because you're putting 330 people in a ballroom that we convert. It's a smaller ballroom on the second floor of the hotel, and we convert it into basically a restaurant with 330 people in it. And even though it's a pretty dead room acoustically, it's still really loud in there. So we do two of those, but we can't put 330 people in those rooms again for the upcoming road rally. So I don't know. We're going to have to cut those luncheons down to like 100 people or something and really spread those tables out and put fewer people at the tables. Who knows? Maybe by November, enough people will be vaccinated and herd immunity will have kicked in. I don't know. All I know is we've got a signed contract and the hotel is willing to bend in any way they need to make us happy, which is great. Because, who knows? It may be mandated that the state says we can only have X number of guests at the road rally, and it's half the number of attendees that we would normally have. Maybe the ballroom, rather than having 1,000 seats in it, will have 500 seats. I don't know. I literally don't know anything other than I pray that the frickin' vaccines work well and do their thing, and that by the time we get to November, we're good. I have read quite a bit recently about traveling on airplanes, and am happy to find out that traveling on airplanes is actually considerably safer than going to the grocery store. Of course, I guess that depends where you shop. Are you reserving a parking lot for the road rally so we can potentially meet outdoors for some social distancing? Yeah, my advice, Akira, is go to the top floor, meet on the elevator or on the helipad. That's where everybody goes to smoke weed. First come, first serve. I don't know, JP. I just don't know. Maybe. Roseanne says the mentor lunch gave the introvert in me a breakdown. Yeah, I'm pretty introverted. I don't like crowds. I love road rally. I love meeting all these people that I see here and talk to on the phone. It's great to meet them in person, but I'm not somebody. I get a little claustrophobic in crowds. We have done years ago. We used to route the registration line is so long at the road rally, in a good way, that we routed it out to the parking structure at the hotel. And we did have a few people complaining that they smelled exhaust from the cars and what have you. When we were at a different hotel in the same general neighborhood as the Westin on Century Boulevard that we've been at now for many years, we actually set up tables for the luncheon. We put down, or the hotel put down, fake grass, astroturf, and some white lattice work. And they turned one of the floors of the parking structure into like a temporary restaurant for the road rally. And it worked out really nicely, I've got to say. Your wife is nagging you to take a vacation, so maybe I'll send her to her mother's and I'll come to LA for the rally. Yeah, that'd be a vacation for her for sure, Scott. The rally on a runway. Yep. Yeah, the room they give me is on the side that faces the runways at LAX. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, I do get woken up, but I'm getting up then anyway during the rally, but I get woken up by jets. Peter Rahill's quote from Charlie Brown. I love humanity. It's the people I can't stand. I love people. I just don't like crowds. Anybody remember the drum circle around 3 a.m. on the helipad? Um, I remember getting called by hotel security. They wanted me to go to the executive lounge on the 12th floor, I think it is. Somebody that had a key because they were staying on the 12th floor in an upgraded room let in like 200 or 300 other members, and the place got trashed. I mean, I walked in there. People were standing on chairs, on tables. There were beer cans and bottles on the floor, and the place literally looked like a bunch of 17-year-old guys that had just arrived for their first weekend at college took over. The place was a mess. I walked in the room and somebody yells, "Cool it, Dad's here." Interesting to know the plugins that SSL makes themselves before you buy the Waves versions. Good to know. Thank you for that. Scott Hansen got a medical marijuana card today. Well, you don't need that in California. I've got to say, the last couple of years since pot's been legal in California, it's a little embarrassing. I got to be honest with you. I've never personally inhaled, but it was embarrassing that people would stand right in front of the hotel because they come from places where you can't smoke weed legally, recreationally, and they stand out right in front of the front door and they smoke weed. Yay, party time, convention, I get it. But it goes right into the lobby of the hotel. And I feel bad for, families that walk through there with the kid going, "Mom, Dad, what's that smell?" Wait till you go to college. Actually, wait till you go to junior high. You'll find out, son. Did I ever work at the record plant? I've done 2 days worth of sessions at the record plant Sausalito in like 1981, I want to say. And I've been to the record plant LA. I've never been to the record plant that was in New York. Brutal era, great talk, Michael. I don't understand what that means. You mean today's hangout? Right, you can't enter a dispensary without your ID. You have to register. Again, I've heard this. I've never actually done it myself, but you have to set up an account, give them your driver's license and stuff. And then I've heard that when you go back, you have to show them your driver's license to get scanned. Ronald Schultz wants to know, Michael, if you have the Road Rally at LAX, do you think even if we had the vaccine, we would wear masks? I don't know. I don't know. Whatever it takes to keep people safe. The timeline is seemingly long enough that we could make real progress with COVID, but I'm certainly no Dr. Anthony Fauci, that's for sure. I don't know. Whatever the rules are, we will follow them to the letter to keep you guys safe and probably go above and beyond that. I mean, that's just, I don't want to put anybody that I know or care about at risk, and I'm sure you guys don't either. Do any of the exclusive deals on taxi have 2-year sunset clauses? You mean where it reverts back to you if they don't get you a deal inside of 2 years? Yeah, some do. Various libraries do. And I've actually seen a little movement where more and more libraries are starting to do that. Have I ever thought about having a newbie workshop the night before the road rally? You can share recommended books, basic DAW techniques for broadcast quality, etc. I mean, I'm certainly not against that idea, Kira. That's a pretty wide range of topics. That would be like a 4-hour workshop of stuff. I would think maybe the most effective thing to do would be like we just started doing this week or last week, we now do the first Wednesday of every month. We now do a live Zoom where it's like an introduction to taxi, all the time-saving, money-saving success tips that you guys have all learned by watching a lot of Taxi TV and being members for a while. We try to roll that up into one. It turned out to be 2 hours the other night, just to save people the time and trouble and help them become successful more quickly. So I could see doing something like that online before the rally, so we could also include stuff about when you arrive at the hotel, but yeah, I'm all for that. I'm becoming a huge fan, and I really owe this to you, becoming a huge fan of how powerful tool, what a powerful tool doing live stuff, live streaming things like this on the internet is. Libby says, I'm wearing a mask, etc., until virus contained, regardless of the virus. I went to the airport the other day. Our daughter flew back to Israel, and when we took her to the airport, yes, hit the like button, please, if you are liking today's episode, which is going to end momentarily, by the way, because we're over time. We actually saw somebody in line going through security wearing a full-on hazmat suit. Yellow taxi hazmat suits. There you go. We should get those. Years ago, we temporarily managed a band called Bob Goblin. They got a deal through a taxi connection with MCA Records, and their whole shtick was they were like a band from the future, and they wore hazmat suits as their stage stuff, and they had, like, on the back was a black circle with their number, like a team number on it and stuff. And they gave their producer and myself and Doug Minnick, the managers, the temporary managers, we all got hazmat suits to wear to one of their shows one night, I think at the Whiskey or something. And I know I've got that somewhere in the house. I looked for it. When we first started doing the Quarantinis, I went looking for the hazmat suit because I do own a gas mask, and I thought it'd be really funny to come on the show wearing the gas mask with the hazmat suit, but I couldn't find it. Can I do a Quarantini happy hour show the day of Taxi anniversary? You mean the actual Taxi anniversary on January 15th, or are you talking about the anniversary of our first Quarantini? I think that would be cool. Boy, Jenny, I am with you 100%. Can you get more women producers, engineers, and composers involved? A lot of girls and women I know don't realize this is something they can do because there aren't a lot of women in the industry. I completely agree with you on that. I've got 4 daughters. Need I say more? And they range in age from 20 up to 40 years old. Doug Minnick, not from New Jersey. I'm dismayed by, for instance, some of the, Recording Magazine, I believe, back in the day, I knew this number. I'm not sure it's true now, but only 6% of their readership was women. And the same was true for, Mix Magazine, some of the other stuff. And I find it heartbreaking, kind of offensive in a way, when I will say to a female taxi member, I love this song, or we love this song, or somebody wants a song, but they need a version, like a mix minus vocal, for instance. And a female member will say, I have to wait for my husband to get home to do that. Really? That to me is heartbreaking. I could understand it if it were, a physical job, lifting super heavy stuff where, the female anatomy may not lend itself as well to lifting a 200-pound thing as a big burly guy like myself might. But we're talking it's all on computer. There's no reason that a woman can't do exactly what a man does. Gender should not be an issue whatsoever. And I think that it's just a hangover from many, many years. But, look, I've been in the industry for 40, 45 years, whatever it's been. I've never once, ever been in a control room, worked on a record, been in a studio situation where I've ever heard any male say anything negative about women working in the industry. I will say that I've had sessions that I've worked on where I got an assistant, like if I went to do a thing at the record plant or wherever and used their in-house assistant. And there were times where I had female assistants that were treated not horribly inappropriately, but guys were hitting on them. Especially if they were an attractive, youngish female assistant, guys in the bands would hit on them, not horribly inappropriately. But, I'll just leave that where it is. And there's some great female producers, a lot of them now, just not by percentage nearly as many as the guys. But I do have a theory, and that is, and this may be totally wrong, and then I got to sign off because we're way over today. But guys have the tinkering gene, as evidenced by the fact that many young men, when they're in high school, like to buy, an older car and put mag wheels on it and a Hirsch shifter and Thrush mufflers. Guys are into tinkering. More so, and this is just my own observation, having grown up with 2 sisters and having 4 daughters. Maybe a Mrs. Laskow segment. Oh, she'd kill me. I've actually suggested to her that she come on the show. I don't know. She likes walking through going, hi. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? Something about women in the industry. I don't know. Anyway. Just that it's so long been kind of a male dominated, and I hate to even use the word dominated because that almost implies something that may not be there. I don't think men have done anything to keep women out. I think that just because it was traditionally kind of an industry that men gravitated to, that women didn't. Maybe they assumed incorrectly that they couldn't. Sexism was my topic. Yeah, well, I don't want to go, too far down the road on that one. But Ian was just in the studio last week for 2 days. The engineer was a female. I've had a few female engineers, and to me, it made no difference. They were all awesome. Yeah, I mean, just because somebody has different anatomy, in the case of using computers or their ears or their brains or having good taste, none of that should be affected by gender. I mean, would you even question like a woman being a really good graphic designer or a good coder? I mean, nobody questions that, right? Yeah, I think women are less interested, but I don't know if it's chicken or the egg, I've had this discussion with some women producers who are extremely good at what they do. I did a panel 3 years ago, I think, 4 years ago at the Road Rally that was about, women breaking in and letting them know. I'm a huge advocate about this, but it always comes back to bite me on the ass somehow. It really does. So I'm probably best just leaving it alone. But is it that women don't gravitate toward this profession because they felt that they've been kept out, or is just not something that they naturally have any desire to pursue? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. Scott Hansen says women are the best. I agree, Scott. Women are criticized 40 times more than any man. You have to guard your reputation. I do get that in the business world, but I see much, 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 much less of it. If it means anything at all, at Taxi, I'm the minority. I mean, seriously, it's like the women rule the roost at Taxi. Angel, who's our CFO, she's a woman. My wife, who has ostensibly become like VP of the company, she's a woman. Liz is a woman. Bria's a woman. Angela, our head screener, is a woman. We have a lot of women. Never once have I ever, and this isn't just me, it's what I feel around the company, Never once have I ever heard a male staff member say anything to the effect of a woman doing her job less good because she is a woman at the company. It just like wouldn't even cross our minds. The only time that we do get a little sexist about it, frankly, this is my personal decision. Like when we're unloading the truck from the road rally, I wouldn't ask, a 110-pound female to pick up something with one of the beefier guys on the staff and carry it off the truck. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. So there is that difference, but that's a physical anatomical thing. I don't know. Maybe I should let the women pick up the heavy stuff. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. I grew up in an era where men were somewhat more chauvinistic, but also somewhat more gallant about opening doors for ladies. I don't know. That's probably wrong to do nowadays anyway. I don't know. Anyway, with all that said, it's been fun hanging out with you. Sorry I went over today, but that was a topic that lends itself well to more discussion. By the way, speaking of Israel, look at the Israel Defense Forces, the army in Israel. I would say probably 60% of the instructors, if you are going to be somebody who drives a tank, guess who's probably going to be teaching you how to drive that tank? A woman. If you're going to the range to learn how to shoot a rifle, your instructor is liable to be a woman. They have lots of women in combat roles. The one line that they don't cross over there is if there's combat taking place in a foreign territory, they won't send female troops into battle in a foreign territory for fear that they would get captured and they would be treated much, much worse than the men would. And I think you can figure out what I mean. So there you go. Have a great day. See you back here, same time, same place on Thursday. 4 o'clock. Give us a like before you head out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. And we will see you guys very soon. Here comes a little music from our very own Keith LeBrant. Bye-bye, you guys.